Hello, welcome to Carissa Explains It All. I am Carissa, I explain it all, and in today's episode, this is chapter 5 of my Diary of an Alchemist series, in which we are reviewing all my journals from all of my spiritual journey, my emotional healing, inner child work, reparenting, all that good stuff, journey from the last 6 or 7 years. I always forget the count, sorry. I always say like 6 to 7 years. We're reviewing my journal entries in this series. So we're doing a couple things in this episode though, adding a little extra layer of context and fun to it. We are, number one, we're reviewing my journal entry from January 20th of 2019, because that's where we're at in the story. 2, I'm going to be reacting to myself in 2022 when I filmed a video, originally wanting to start this YouTube series, and she is reacting to this same journal entry, January 20th of 2019. And so I'm going to be reacting to her, reacting to that. And then number 3, we're going to actually address what the journal entry is about, which was about, I deciphered a dream, like I had a dream. It's very memorable. I still remember those details very vividly. I deciphered the dream, and then I realized that I'm kind of like coming to terms with the feeling of worry and what that means, what that feels like, how it might have been passed down, as well as what to do about that without going into the territory of toxic positivity. And I have not seen this video of myself yet. I haven't watched it. Obviously, it's a reaction video. I want it to be a genuine reaction. I've watched like 90 seconds just to make sure I found the right video. But I have not watched it. So there's a couple things that I'm curious to see of myself. So right now in 2025, I'm 35. In 2022, the video I'm reacting to, I was 32. And in 2019, the journal entry that both me and my 2022 self are reacting to, I was 29. So there's about 6 years difference between all of us, all 3 versions of myself. And I'm curious to observe myself. 3 years ago, I know how far I've come in the last 3 years, as far as like uncovering myself, integrating aspects, all this stuff. I have a lot more space and grace and self-love than I did 3 years ago. And so I'm curious, I suspect going into this video, I suspect she's going to be just a little bit more judgmental or hypercritical of her 2019 self, just because that's a protective mechanism, right? Like if I can find all the things that are wrong with me before anyone else does, then I can fix that, or like just like soften it or whatever, you know, so no one else can pick it out. And thank God I have released a lot of that. And what I haven't released, I know better now. Like I know better how to deal with that aspect of myself and how to turn it pretty dang quickly to, we don't do that anymore, and turn it into self-love. So I suspect that my 2022 self will probably be a little bit more judgmental and also not be able to hold as much perspective. Obviously, she was in the middle of the journey, and she could only see her way. And I liken it to, she was going through the cave of spiritual awakening, emotional healing, figuring out who she was, individuation, you know, all that good stuff. So she's going through and she's thinking, I'm finding the way. And she was finding the way. It was the way for her, for me. But everybody can have their own way through the cave. And we might all hit certain key points in that. Maybe we all have a Kundalini awakening, maybe we all have a spiritual healing, maybe we all have inner child work, like we all hit similar things, but we might find different paths through the cave. And I think my 2022 self at that time, because she was in the thick of it, she's finding the way and probably assuming that this is the only way. And so I think as my 2025 self, I can hold a little more space to see, now that I can see so much of the totality of me, it doesn't feel threatening to step outside of myself and view myself and like see how I am and how that's different than someone else, because that someone else, their way is their way through the cave. And it doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean my way's right or wrong or their way's right or wrong. It just is what it is. And so I think that I can hold a lot more space for other people much better now than I could back then, because I know the right way for me, and I also know that it worked for me and my personality and my childhood and my karmic baggage and my energy and my soul, whatever. Like this was the right way for me, and I acknowledge that other people are going to have their right way as well. And so I suspect that she will probably be teaching assuming that she is doing it the right way, and I'm curious, maybe she did, maybe, I don't know. So we're gonna watch that right now. Oh, one more thing. So my teeth, I had braces in high school, but teeth were still in the wrong places, and they got more crooked through the years, because of course I didn't wear my retainer. And so in 2022, I was very self-conscious about my teeth, and so I was wearing fake teeth. They were like a little strip you could buy on Amazon of like plastic teeth, and like I stuck them, they come with like a putty thing, you could stick them on your teeth. And so that's what I'm wearing in this video. That's why my teeth are gonna look a little funny. Just a little heads up why my teeth look, because they're like bright white, like you'll notice them. I don't think they look too bad, but just so you're aware, that's what was happening then. I have Invisalign now. Makes me so happy because I do not feel self-conscious about my smile anymore. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyways, let's get to it. Let's react to this video. And here we go. Hi guys, welcome to Carissa Explains It All. I'm Carissa, and today we are talking about that time that I realized that I inherited worry and that it was not my best course of action for becoming my most empowered self. Reading out of one of my journals from 2019. This is January 15th of 2019 to January 26th of 2019, and it is one of the first journals that I started while going on my spiritual journey. And I have picked an entry out of here where I was wondering at this point in my journey what types of things that I had picked up in my ancestral lineage from the women in my family. I set that intention before I went to bed, and then after I woke up, I journaled all about this dream that I had. And so there was this dream about being in a dark hotel room with my mom, my grandma, and my sisters, and there were 2 rooms and lots of beds, and the sheets were kind of gross, and some had spiders living in them, and we were waiting for my dad to come home and to figure out the sleeping arrangements. And the theme of the dream felt like worry. You can use symbols in your dreams to decipher what your dream was trying to tell you, what your subconscious was trying to tell you, and then you can understand what emotions were coming up from it and understand what the emotions are trying to tell you. Then you understand what your soul, your inner self, your inner child is trying to communicate to you. And from the mind's perspective, the mind is kind of our ego, our protector self, the part of us that's conscious of who we are, like our personality and that sort of thing. As we take that mind and try to understand the subconscious mind, our inner self, we kind of merge these 2 aspects of ourself, our higher self and our ego, and we integrate the 2. It's not that we're trying to get rid of the ego and only live as the higher self. It's more like we're trying to integrate the 2 of them, because our ego is how we operate in this 3D world, in this earth that we're living on, this human body experience. And so we can't get rid of it. We are it. And so the idea is to merge the 2, integrate the 2. So this was all about like me trying to understand what are those emotions that were passed on through the generations that I'm not even aware of. My ego, my conscious mind is not aware of. And I want to become aware of it, because then I can start to work with myself and self-soothe and become aware of it, and become aware when I'm triggered into feeling these feelings again, and I just accept it as fact. Because if I accept it as fact, then I never question it, and I never change how I deal with myself and how I deal with the world around me. I just continue to perpetuate my same circumstances. So I really wanted to get to the heart of this feeling of like worry that was like, it was like worry from a sense of helplessness. Like I think helplessness was the core feeling, and then worrying was my coping mechanism, like the way that I dealt with it. Right there I say, I think that helplessness was the core feeling, and then worry was like, what I say, the coping mechanism. That is referring to the emotional ladder. Like Abraham Hicks talks about the emotional ladder, and it's basically in decreasing order of like negative emotions. So you have your baseline, and then you're like just under that is like boredom, just under that is pessimism, just under that is like frustration, under that is like doubt, then worry, then I don't know. So like I can't remember anymore. Maybe anger, then sadness, then grief or rage, and then like helplessness and depression. Like you go in like decreasing, like it gets more and more and more intense of negative emotions as you go down the ladder. So what I was referencing was the feeling of helplessness, but my coping mechanism was worry. So I was kind of like further up on that scale. But it was kind of like a cover emotion. That's another concept I was probably referencing, was that there's a covering, like because we're trying to stay empowered, we don't always let ourselves fall to the lowest emotion that we're actually vibrating at and feeling at, because we don't know how to deal with it and we don't understand how that scale works or like have a way to work with it. So we're just dealing with whatever emotion is coming at us with the level of consciousness that we currently have. And so at the time, like, worry was as far down as I could go, but I'm maybe at that point in 2019, I'm confusing myself because there's 2022 self and 2019 self. I think she was starting to realize that worry was a cover emotion for helplessness. And so dealing with that core emotion of what's going on will help me to release some of the habits of the cover emotions, which is to worry, because if you address the core emotion and you feel it and you understand it and you release it and you learn like healthier ways to cope with those core emotions, then you no longer have to do the worry because there's no reason to do the worry. Like, you're doing the worry because you don't know how to address the emotions any further down that they go. So I think that was way too much to talk about there, but I wanted to address that because I'm addressing concepts that I can pick out now as I can see myself, and I'm like, I was using this concept and this concept and this concept to conceptualize of my entire experience back then, but I don't think I explained those at that time. Not that it like super matters, really, but like, I don't know, I'm just explaining what I was thinking, my thought process in 2022.
From only the ego's perspective, because at the time I was only operating from the ego perspective. So most of us who worry had an authority figure who believed in punishment. We expect the same treatment from the universe, and so we expect pain from the universe. We expect it to hurt us, and we don't think we can escape the impending consequences for not being good enough, just like how it was in childhood. So we think that worrying keeps us safe, or at the very least lessens the pain. But as long as we're worrying, we're not feeling safe and we're feeling pain. So this is something that I was also coming to terms with, is that the process of worrying is very like in your mind. It's a mental thing that we do. It's all these thoughts running through, like best case scenario, worst case scenario. Often it's usually worst case scenario. And what can I do to plan for outcome A or B or C or D, as many as we can think of, so that we can prevent it, or at least be aware that this is probably going to happen, which we feel like lessens the shock. That's probably what it is. It's not that it lessens the pain, it lessens the shock, so we're not surprised when it happens. And the thing about that, I totally get that, because especially at that time in 2019 when I was writing that, I was a classic overthinker. The thing about worrying, though, is that worry keeps you in a vibrational state. Like, worry as an emotion, not just like the mental chatter, but worry as an emotion is kind of a lower vibrational emotion. It's one where you are counteracting fear. You're expecting bad things to happen. You're expecting pain. And so out of fear, you worry to try to counteract that or lessen the shock of it. But it's not like a happy vibration. We don't worry when we're happy. We don't, like, if you're expecting to go somewhere and have a good time with someone, you're not worried about it. You're excited about it. You might still be doing the same mental chatter of like planning, like, oh, option A, B, and C, like all these things could happen, but it's fun and you feel excited for it. And that's high vibration. Like hopeful expectation of the future, and worry is the lower vibration of that mental chatter of like, I'm expecting things to go wrong, therefore out of fear I shall plan for every circumstance possible to keep myself safe. And that happens when we expect that the universe is out to punish us, or things are going to be bad, or like the world is out of our control, just like we did in our childhood, where we were not in control and we had to rely on caregivers to support us. Well, okay, this is another good part. Reality is what the mind perceives. Your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and what you're thinking about. So your mind is just going to process whatever thoughts are coming in. And when you think a thought, your vibrational state begins to match it. So your emotions begin to match whatever thought that you're thinking. So if you're focused on all the negative possible outcomes, you're going to start vibing at that level of negativity. And not that negativity is bad, just that it's a lower vibration. So you're going to be matched to those lower vibration outcomes. And similarly, when you are thinking happy thoughts, you are vibing higher, and so you are matched to those higher frequency outcomes. So your mind literally doesn't know the difference. So when you're faced with a situation that is going to that feels negative, feels like it could be a bad outcome, you have the power to choose how to focus your mind and focus what types of thoughts you're thinking. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, because I feel like everyone's heard of toxic positivity now. And toxic positivity in this case, let's try to ground this example a little bit more. So say you're going on a first date, and you're just thinking about that date. You're kind of worrying because you want it to work out well. You want them to like you. You really want to find your true love, or you want to find someone that you can at least just like hang out with and feel good and make a connection and just be in a relationship with. Like, that's what you want. And there's the situation. It's coming. It's like 7 p.m. is when the date is happening, and it's like 3 p.m. right now. And you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about it. Now, you can choose to focus on that and worry and be like, what if they don't like me? What if I say something and they just like, they're totally turned off by it, and I really like them and I want it to work out. Like, how am I going to handle that? And like, what would I say to like try to win back their trust, or try to be funny, or try to be silly, or try to be nice or sweet, or like how would I maneuver this situation, or kind of manipulate the circumstances, or try to manipulate their perception of me. And that's all worry, right? That's all fear-based. That's all like, I'm not good enough, therefore I am going to try all these different things to get the outcome that I want, to get them to like me, right? So that sounds exhausting. So what you could do is focus positively. I'm going to go over toxic positivity first. Focusing positively in a toxic way is being like, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm me, I'm awesome, they're going to love me no matter what, we're gonna vibe, we're gonna go out, they're gonna want to see me again, and da 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 da. Those are all like great positive affirmations to say in the mirror if you believe them. This is
interesting. Toxic positivity, I feel like I understood like the idea behind it back then, but the way that I gave the example was definitely a projection of I don't know. It's not the way that I would go about trying to be confident. This is one of those things where I'm in the cave trying to find my path, and that's not the right path for me to pretend to be confident when I'm not. For me, I'd want to go hermit away, do the inner work, feel more confident, and then come out, or just be totally myself, which is gonna, go on that date and just be like a little more reserved and allow myself to just be as confident as I feel, and then whatever happened later, go home, journal about it, reflect, like move through it, process, and open up and integrate a little bit more from that. And from that, then I would then be a little more confident for next time. That's how I process things and grow, but that's not how everyone does. And I know a lot of people will do exactly what I just said not to do because it was toxic positivity, which is to go out and like pretend like you're confident, whatever. Sometimes that works, is just to go out there and feign the confidence that you don't feel. And from that, you'll have new experiences that then train and condition you that it's okay to be that confident and you can do that again in the future. I think that's the way a lot of people operate. That more so tells about my projections and my perceptions of the world and how I feel. I felt like my way was the right way because it was for me. And I was trying to come to terms with what is the right way for me. But I don't think I would not define toxic positivity as that now. Using that example, I guess I would define toxic positivity as is probably just saying like, if using that example of getting ready for the date and feeling worried, toxic positivity would be like to say, I don't feel worried. I don't feel anything, just kind of stuffing down that worry. Whereas now I would probably want to that's my inner child, feeling not safe, feeling worried about other people's perceptions of me and not feeling validated, and just needing to feel connection so much so that I'm giving my power away to them in order to make sure that I'm accepted. And so in that moment now, to not do toxic positivity, I would say, let's do some inner child work, just like take a few moments to breathe and to be with myself and to list a bunch of things that I like about myself and whatever. Just toxic positivity, like just address the worry rather than glossing over it for me. That's not how everyone would deal with that. But I think it's interesting to see my projection of, it's like I feel like I was not being triggered. I was like being triggered by like people who just go out there and just wing it. Because the common advice, right, is to fake it till you make it. And that's not the right way for me. Like it's just not taught out there. Like everyone's like fake it till you make it. Every time I wanted to create the YouTube channel, people were like, just go for it, just do it. And I didn't, and I put it off for years. And I talked in my last video about how I was irritated that I'm still stuck in my job because I haven't put myself out there and done that. But I've created all this other wonderful wealth and abundance in my life. For me, like, I did not start showing up consistently on YouTube until I felt that confidence in myself. And that's the path that I took because I wanted to feel like I had a stable foundation. I wanted to feel like whatever video I put out there, whatever I say, I feel confident in myself at this time putting that out there. I'm not worried about other people's opinions. This is my story. I'm telling my story from my heart, and I've got my own back, and I love myself, and I love and honor my journey, and I'm putting this out there to help others and to share my journey. That's it. It's a sacred storytelling. It's doing it for the sake of doing it, not because I need to put myself out there and I need to make the videos and I da-da-da-da-da. Like, I'm doing it in my own time and letting my own story unfold as it feels natural to, rather than trying to push it to a timeline. And that is not the common advice that you get at all. And I cannot tell you the number of times people are like, just put the YouTube videos out there. And maybe it would have been okay, and maybe I would have gotten confident from doing other things, but my path was to find that internal peace and confidence and come from that place and tell my story. And there were definitely two paths to take. This is the path that I took, and I guess I'm just saying it's we tangented so far off the path of reacting to that video, but I just want to bring comfort to other people who, like, if it feels terrifying to do the thing, I think it's perfectly okay to choose a different path, which is to self-soothe, comfort, feel good, and do that consistently over and over and over again until you have created a safe, comforting, validated space within you, and then act from that. You're not out of time. You're not behind in life. You know, like, if you're not one of those super outgoing people, if you're a super highly sensitive person, there is another way, and I am living that way. And yes, it comes with its own cons as far as, you know, my YouTube series isn't out there. Whatever career thing I want to make from this, I have no idea what it is, but it's taken years longer than I wanted to. Most people are like, just get out there, get online, put whatever you have out there. But I did not want to rush it, and I did not want to put shit out there that's been repetitively put out there over and over and over again. Just, I can't tell you how many people I'll watch their series, or I'll like buy their little mini course, and I'm like, you can Google this shit. This is nothing new. What are you adding to the conversation? And I feel like I'm sorry if I'm feeling like sounding a little enraged, but I'm just like, we need to be a society of more substance. I want people of substance out there who have taken their path, who have trusted a different way of doing things and are sharing that. And like, there is another way besides a super like package it up consumerism, toss it out there. And that's like built on a level of like, just put yourself out there, and like, just like this rush job is what it feels like. It feels like quantity over quality, and straight up, that is not the only way to go. God, I tangented so far. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you're just watching this video, not necessarily like for the reaction and all that, but like, you know, for, I don't know. Let's get back to the video, because I'm so lost right now of where we're at. But toxic positivity. Yeah, I definitely, wow, everything that I just reacted to, that's the anger that I felt at that time in 2022 that I was saying was toxic positivity. It's definitely that part of myself that, this is cool, this came full circle, this actually worked. My tangent worked. I didn't know at that time why I was saying that was toxic positivity, because that's not how I would define it now. But I can see how that was a shadow for me, was this anger that I felt towards people who were just putting their shit out there, faking it till you make it. That being the common advice, and me being like, there's gotta be another way. There's, like, I want people of substance and quality. Like, I want to meet people on such a deeper level, and I'm so sick of the surface level stuff. And yeah. But I mean, that advice, just fake it till you make it and put yourself out there, that's gonna work for a lot of people. I feel like a lot more for extroverts and people who, they need that external world. We all need the external world to bounce off of. But people who are introverts, who are highly sensitive, probably tend towards spirituality because you're more wanting to tune into an internal world or something, or other worlds, or whatever, like, there's a level of sensitivity where just following that advice is going to be more abrasive and hurtful, because you have a more sensitive soul that needs to be protected a little bit more, that needs those like firm boundaries and needs to feel like you don't have to put yourself out there before you're ready. But also know that there's a journey to take to be ready. You are not stuck in feeling disempowered. You are not stuck in feeling closed off from the world, because you're too sensitive. No, sensitivity is a huge superpower, but you have to learn how to wield it, and that means that you have to prioritize that you are right and okay for being sensitive, and that there is a training process to go through. And I don't think that that's supported, like a narrative that's supported out in the world very much right now. It's very much on the rah, that forceful put yourself out there. And I don't think it has to be only that way. So, yay, I just did shadow work on myself live on camera, I guess, from 2022. I misdefined toxic positivity, I think. But it shows a shadow, which is really cool to uncover now. Like, I'm very aware of, like, I don't like this that's out there in society. And I recognize the aspect of me that brings something new to the table. And why it makes me angry that's the soul narrative, because it made me feel like I felt so behind for so long, and made me feel like there's got to be something wrong with me because I feel so terrified to put myself out there before I'm ready. And there wasn't. Like, it took years more, yeah, and that sucked, but also I come from a place of, like, I trust myself so much that it doesn't bother me to get on camera, and I just went off on a tirade. I felt angry, and I said what I said, and I'm not apologetic for it, because it truly came from my heart and from the way that I feel. And I know I can't be the only one. I've talked to too many people now about their perspectives and their stories, and I'm like, wow, I went through something very similar. That idea of like you watch a video of a common human experience and you're like, what, are we all living the same life? I've had enough of those now that I'm like, I said what I said. I'm not apologetic about it, because I know that there's other people who feel that way too and go through the same thing. So, okay, that's enough on that. I'm only like 8 minutes into an 18-minute video that I'm reacting to, so let's get back to it. Oh, and it's 18 minutes on the timer right now. How cool is that? Okay, let's get back.
Those are all like great positive affirmations to say in the mirror if you believe them. Here's the thing. So when I was going through my spiritual journey, affirmations just did not work for me for the majority of it, because if I were to say those things to myself in the mirror, I don't believe them. Clearly, I was worrying about, are they going to like me? That shows, like, I don't feel confident that people are going to like me as I am. Therefore, I'm having all these worries and these things that I'm trying to mitigate the situation with. And so if I go, no, you know what? I'm going to focus on this positively and start saying things like, I'm awesome, I'm cool. Like, that is like a false sense of confidence that, if it works, great. So it pumps you up and gets you out there. But it's like, at some point it's going to falter, because it's like the three pigs that built the houses. It's like building a house of straw. It's not a sturdy foundation. You don't believe it. There's not a belief behind it. So focusing positively on the situation and being like, I'll be fine. Things are going to work out, blah, blah, blah. That's not really going to help. So focusing positively, what I mean by that is to look at the situation and be like, okay, This is a learning situation.
Okay, so let me react real quick to affirmations. I still feel the same way in that affirmations at that time and up till probably recently, till the last year or so, affirmations would not work for me because, okay, I'm a Libra sun, Virgo moon. So my mind structures and organizes everything. I need to understand it thoroughly and put it into my conceptual framework in order for it to make sense and for me to believe and trust it. That is how I operate. Not everyone operates that way. Some people do not need to uncover their limiting beliefs and release them before they say an affirmation and start to believe it. I do. That is my path. I've got to understand and believe it to say it. Up until probably about a year ago, because my very core belief around affirmations shifted. And I felt like it's okay to affirm things and I don't have to believe them right now, but when I go out into the world and I encounter something that is contrary to my affirmation, I can then pull up that affirmation and be like, I'm choosing to believe something different now. And I can shift it, and I can shift it easily. But I had so much inner work that I had to do to get to that point where I could trust that I can shift those beliefs easily. There was so much work that went on behind it. I don't think everyone has to do all that work. But yeah, I just say that for anyone else who feels like affirmations don't work or they're too woo-woo or whatever. I felt that way too for a long time. And if you feel that way, I think that it is legit for you because it was legit for me until I no longer believed that. Isn't that ironic that like believing that affirmations work, like I didn't believe that they worked until I believed that they could work, and then they worked. Right? But I don't think that they would have worked prior to that because that's not the way my mind worked. My mind does not trust things. Like when someone says something to me, I'm going to run it through my framework, and if it doesn't make sense, I'll ask for clarification. And if it still doesn't make sense, then I'm like, does that work for me? Maybe that just works for them, not for me. Maybe I'll go do more research on it. Like I do not take anything at face value. It all has to be run through and processed and like consumed and integrated and like chewed over, which can be exhausting, but also I feel pretty firm, like confidence in what I believe because I question everything, and really come from a mental space and a mind and a heart space of like, do I believe this? And like, have I thoroughly chewed it over and integrated it? So, yeah, just to say that, like, I do believe that affirmations work if they work for you. And if they don't, then they don't. But that doesn't mean that they won't ever. You could get to a space where they do. I'll have to do a separate video on that, but let's get back to this one.
This is a learning situation. Okay, I'm going to come at this from not like a fear base, but from a learning base. Like, I'm going to look at this situation and be like, whatever happens tonight, I am going to learn some things about myself. I want to keep an open mind to what I will learn. I'm going to learn where I feel super triggered by, like, when we're having a conversation, if I feel fear, like, oh no, they're going to think whatever of me, that's going to be a huge learning point for me. That trigger is going to teach me about emotions that I have not dealt with. It's going to teach me about where I feel really insecure. It's going to maybe be an opportunity for me to be really honest if I can with them and be like, whoa, okay, what you just said right now makes me feel really triggered and very vulnerable. And I just want to put that out there. We don't have to address it or anything, but I just want to say, like, I'm feeling kind of weird about that. And can we please move on to a different topic? Or would you be open to like exploring that further? I don't know how many people feel that open, being vulnerable with someone you just met. That's something that I would probably do because like elephant in the room just bothers the heck out of me more than anything. So I would just be like, let's straight up address how crazy that was that I just said. But if that's, you just like, it opens up a door for you to be vulnerable, even in just saying like, whoa, I feel super vulnerable right now and I don't know how to handle that. Like, can we just like skip to the next question or skip to the next topic or whatever and just like pretend like that didn't happen for now? And I guarantee you that is so attractive. Like I don't want to say like the right people will be totally attracted to that, but someone who is able to be honest with their feelings, to be honest with you, is gonna appreciate your honesty and being like, I emotionally can't handle that right now. Can we move on? Oh my gosh, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, you're my person. Like, because you're honest. You're so honest. And that's what like trust and like a solid relationship is built on is trust. Like, you don't have to be right all the time. You don't have to be kind all the time. You don't have to be thoughtful all the time. Like, those things are great and they're qualities you can build up in a relationship. But foundationally, like, you just have to trust one another that you're going to be as honest as you possibly can in that current moment without you have. And sometimes that's just being honest about, I can't handle it right now. Let's not deal with it. And that's cool. Like that, ooh, that's so solid for a foundation to be built on. I don't know, like that will people who are wanting to be honest with you, your honesty will resonate with them. I guarantee you, I promise. And that's huge. So going back to what we were talking about,
so in reaction to that real quick, I still feel that way. That's great. Like, if someone can be really honest with me up front about their feelings and stuff, I think that's really cool. But it kind of goes two ways, or two different things I want to address. Just because you don't do that doesn't mean it's a red flag. Some people just are way more open with their emotions than others. But also, on the flip side of that, me being totally open about my emotions right up front can actually be a turnoff for some people. And I actually experienced the flip side of that with a coworker in recent times who opened up about a bunch of stuff right after we first met. And I'm just like, I've got a boundary because one, I'm at work, which means I'm already giving to customers that come in and stuff. So I need to be very protective of my energy. And then two, someone else who's like, blah, all their emotional stuff. I'm just like, walls up, because again, like, I can only give so much, right? My cup's only so full. And also, like, I don't know you. Like, I don't know this person. Like, is there going to be a reciprocation of this energy if I give and hold space and like give advice should they want it? Are they going to be able to do the same for me, or are they just talking at me and just taking of my time and energy? And so I needed to keep that boundary up till I could see if it would be reciprocated. And it has not. And so I'm very happy that I held that boundary because I don't get too involved with this person's stuff, and it doesn't take too much from me. So I realize kind of now, like, how that would be being so upfront about my emotions to someone. But the thing is too, are you taking your emotions and dumping them on someone else's plate? I feel like that was the situation with this person I worked with. And what I'm referring to here isn't really like dumping the emotions, but rather being very just honest and transparent about the way I currently feel. And I have a boundary up, like, I can't really deal with this. Like, either we can deal with this right now or we don't, but I have to say we have to move on. And I think I'm just saying, just being upfront and being honest about how you're actually feeling, even if you don't go into the details of it, but just that you're like, that doesn't make me feel great. I don't feel confident in talking about that either with you or in the situation, or like because of me, like whatever, you know, it's okay to be transparent about not feeling great. And that's okay, I think, is what I was trying to come to with that.
So going back to what we were talking about, the example, focusing positively isn't toxic positivity. I'm awesome. I'm da 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 da. Notice how all that is very ego-based. Like, that is building the ego. And remember, you are ego, but you are also your inner self, your higher self, your soul, your genuine, vulnerable, beautiful inner soul self. And so to do all that, like, I'm beautiful, I'm awesome, I'm gonna be fine, blah, 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 that only caters to the ego. And it doesn't help build that muscle of like being able to be that vulnerable inner part of you, which is the honest part that people really want connection with.
I think most, I don't know if it's most people, but I think what's most commonly seen, going back to that idea of just put yourself out there, just go for it, fake it till you make it. I do believe that a lot of people, that's how they develop their adult self, their ego self, but their adult self that's capable of going out there and pitching a business meeting or a business idea and getting the contract, or putting themselves out there and getting that date with that person that they really wanted to date. Going for that YouTube channel before they feel ready, unlike me. They are exercising that skill of being an adult and going out there, making things work, figuring it out. And there is greatness to that. I feel like in that 2022 video, I can't see the greatness of that at that time because I was so knee deep neck deep, whatever, in over my head in inner child work, which is really about supporting and loving and prioritizing the inner child above everything else. Because prior to that, as you will see in my burnout series of burning out at my job, I was so in that outer adult experience of just put myself out there and make money and like make money for the company and like interact with everyone. I was just so out there. And I think what I take issue with in the 2022 video is that leaves the inner child self undeveloped and abandoned and neglected if you don't address the feelings that underlie worry. Just being the adult self and going out there and taking action, that helps you learn the skills to be able to handle obstacles and situations in your life. But if we don't ever take that time to sit with the child self, acknowledge the emotions that we're feeling, that will cause obstacles down the road. If you only ever go after the external in life, anyone that you hear about that has like problems and issues in relationships and feelings and like pushes themselves too hard or doesn't go for it, like those are the issues that have to deal with the adult self that's out in the external world. And instead of continuing to try to take action as they have always done, at that time it's time to go inside and be present with that inner child self and with the feelings that you feel, and let yourself feel them and acknowledge them and validate them and just literally feel them. And then the release of it, because you have been with it and it lets go of that worry or anxiety or whatever issues that you're dealing with. And it is at that time that you take the inner child and now hand in hand with the adult self, now you move forward in the world and you're going to be able to move through obstacles differently. And so I think that, I took such issue with it in 2022 because I'm so like I said, in over my head, like surrounded by the inner child self and really focused on prioritizing her above everything else. And that's great. And I feel like everyone should have the opportunity to do that at least once in their life. But the way that I personally process through things, I like to get really deep into it, obsessed with it, figure it all out, and then come out and find the balance. So, burning out at my job, I was pendulum swing way over here in the adult self, external world, pendulum swing for the last 6 or 7 years in my life right now in 2025. The last 6 or 7 years have been internal, this inner child work, the priority of the inner self above all else. And then realizing, oh shit, I don't have a career, I don't have any external aspirations, things that I'm working towards, not that I need to, but like I'm now wanting to, and oh my god, I'm so far behind is what I feel or fear sometimes. And so there's the pendulum swing back to incorporate now. I know how to be the adult self. I had great success in my career prior to going on my spiritual journey. Taking that aspect and all the skills that I learned, all the discipline, all the grit, all the masculine, the divine masculine that just knows how to go after what they want, taking that aspect, the outer adult, and taking it with the feminine, the divine feminine, the emotional self, the inner world, the intuition, the spiritual, the knowing, the deep, deep knowing of what's right for me and my inner being, my higher self, my soul aspect, and my inner child, and bringing those two. And now it's a marriage of it. I'm swinging back into that middle, being like, I take this very vulnerable aspect of myself that I cherish and honor, and I take the skills and the discipline of the inner adult self that I also revere because it sets boundaries and it helps me take action to move forward. And together, they are working in tandem now towards my own goal, my own desires and purpose, which is this YouTube series and whatever else I do after that. So yeah, I just wanted to address, in 2022, I was so deep into that internal world, and that was my everything. And as it should and needed to be at that time. But just know, if you do go into it that deep, there's pendulum swings, like you're in one extreme of a spectrum of energy, and we got to do both together. And I was raging against the outer adult, because I just felt like, she and everyone else that represented the outer adult to me really effed me over in my career of like burning out and pushing too hard. And it was raging against, our system, our current system in society, and capitalism and corporatism and all that stuff, like just the rage that I felt. And I was just like, how dare you not prioritize the inner child? And I think that was coming out in this video. Yeah.
Focusing positively in a toxic way is going to only cater to the ego. If you can focus positively in a way that like, how do I integrate more? How do I show up a little bit more honest or a little bit more authentic or a little more sincere? And honor that the ego wants to be seen in ways that are good. Like, I want to be accepted by this person. Like, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to be like, well, if they can't see how awesome I am, then that's their problem. That's such a wall. That's such a barrier that you're putting up. And it's a barrier to you growing and expanding into your more authentic and honest version of yourself. So it doesn't do anyone any service at all for you to focus in a toxic positivity way at the situation. If you can just, and I realize how much strength it takes to stay open to being like, I'm gonna grow from this, even though I really, really want this to work out and all that. But I promise, in whatever way that you're able to stay open and expanded and go into it with that focus of, I'm just gonna learn what I can from this situation, whatever that is, it's a win. It's a freaking win, because worst case scenario from that, you go in, you have a horrible night, you guys don't click, you don't whatever, because you wanted to learn something, you're going to be like, at the very minimum, I learned that person is not my person. And what about them or their behavior or our interaction made me feel uncomfortable or that I didn't like? Or how did I end up, like, how did I start changing myself to try to be more accepted by this person that I didn't even really enjoy their company, or we didn't have a good time, blah, blah, blah. Like, whew, so many learning opportunities, and you become so much more self-aware, and that helps you integrate that inner self and that ego, and you start becoming a more genuine version of yourself, one that can let go of facades, let go of boundaries, let go of any walls that you've built up.
Real quick, by boundaries, I meant walls. Obviously, you want to hold boundaries.
Masks and illusions that you have to seeing your actual inner self, it really, really helps you build that. And at the very end of that, even if nothing worked out with that particular person, you won. Like, you came out of that situation so much more empowered, so much more aware, so much more conscious. Like your attraction is like off the charts amazing, even if you come out of that situation feeling shitty, feeling sad, feeling depressed, feeling angry, feeling mad. You still won at the end of that. Like, you still came out of that dialed in, like going to that next level of yourself. So awesome. So how did we get there? We got there from like vibrations, like how you vibrate at. So from that, we were looking at a circumstance. If you focus negatively and be like, oh, I hope they like me, I hope you're going to show up as a meek version of yourself, right? One that's kind of scared and whatever. And if that's the best that you can do at the time, which I get it, because being on like a first date, I totally remember being that way on first dates. Sometimes that's the best that you can do where you're at. But that worrying, that focusing on the negative outcomes, it's only ever like you know the best case scenario of that is that you're still going to show up feeling very, very insecure. And you might not learn anything because you're not focusing on that positive outcome of what could come from that. And then focusing toxically, it's going to lead to more facades, more walls, more boundaries. It's just not, it doesn't really serve you. Not really. Maybe in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't serve you. And then if you can focus positively, you're going to vibe at a different level. You're going to go into that situation not so much focused on like everything that they're not going to accept about me. You're not going to be projecting so much. You're not going to be placing overlays and illusions on them and like trying to see them the way that you want them, the way that you want to see them, and trying to get them to see you the way you want them to see you. There's so many games with that. If you can focus positively and being like, I just want to show up and I want to learn something, whether that's about them or me or whatever, like I'm going to focus on what I can take out of this positively, you vibe at a different level. You're going to have a different outcome from that situation. So I think that went so tangentially off of this journal entry, but whatever. My hope is to kind of show you how focusing positively is going to affect you the way that you emotionally show up in your being, and affect the possible outcomes that you could get, and honestly contribute to like your next level of growth, so much more than continuing to focus on the worst case scenario, on those types of outcomes. And I know that that's so much easier said than done, but hopefully just kind of illustrating that with an example with my own story kind of just helps like spin off your own kind of realizations about that. I'm super curious what you did take away from this video or from this story or from my...
So we'll end it there. Yay, 2022 self. That was cool to watch. I really didn't know how to react or what I was going to react to. Yeah, she definitely was in her own perspective because she was in the middle of that journey. Like I said, that pendulum swing. She was in the thick of it with the inner child, the feminine, the intuitive, the internal self. And that's totally okay to be there. Just hopefully in me reacting to this and being able to see the totality of me now, there are two aspects to all of us, and there were two aspects to me at that time. But because I was in the cave and I'd only been the inner adult self that overlooked the inner child, and now I was focusing on the inner child, I was like, the inner child is the most important thing. We have to do that. And now I'm here, 3 years after the 2022 video, and I'm like, and you can't only be in the inner child because then the inner adult gets neglected, your outer adult gets neglected, and your external world gets neglected. So it's everything. It's all of it, right? Because I didn't really get into it in that video, I have some notes on what I would say now about worry and toxic positivity, because I did promise that we'd get into that, even though I'm sure this video is super long. Most of what I'm doing off camera is I'm going through my journals and typing them up in a Word document, putting them in Excel spreadsheets, and like tagging them with these different ideas and stuff, concepts that I was going through. So I have a Word document on my computer in front of me that I'm going to be looking at for my notes on this. We're going to go real quick. Let's hope. So I wrote, when I was watching the Teal Swan videos back then, I wrote that she said, most of us who worry had an authority figure who believed in punishment. And so we expect the same treatment from the universe. I have, forget which chapter it is, chapter 2 or 3, I think, where I talk about how I projected so much onto the law of attraction. It was really projecting my relationship with my caregivers onto the law of attraction, because when you go from one authority figure and you start to learn how the universe works, you're going to put all your projections from authority figures onto that, because you still expect that there's something outside of you that holds external power and authority over you. And it's really awesome through the process of spirituality and coming to know yourself that you become your own authority. Like, you realize that the authority was never outside of you, it was always inside of you, which is like kind of a spiritual truth that like bypasses a human truth, that at one time in your human life there were authority figures and control outside of you. You did not always have, you did always have the power to, but like the conditioning was so strong because you needed to survive. You had to make your caregivers happy. So you got conditioned. That is the human condition, is we get conditioned. And then hopefully through spirituality or emotional healing or therapy, we work through and release some of that so we can reclaim our power. But if we did that, we had caregivers who believed in reward punishment style. We expect the same thing from the universe. So we expect like a love-hate relationship. We expect it to hurt us. We expect impending consequences for not being good enough. And that's usually at the heart of worry in some way, either for not being good enough or not being able to be provided for, I think, are the biggest things. So we do worry as kind of a behavior because it keeps us safe, or at the very least lessens the pain, because it's like kind of like a protective mechanism, right? Like, here's the impending future. I expect there will be consequences for if I'm not ready, if I'm not prepared, if I'm not good enough, if I'm not perfect enough. I expect there to be negative consequences. And because I expect that, I'm going to do what I can to mitigate that, which is to worry, to think about it, think about every possible scenario, think about every little detail to try to plan it out in advance so that we can be safe. And there is so nothing wrong with that, because you are trying to protect yourself, and that is an honorable thing always. But it doesn't make life easy, because then you're always expecting the worst, right? And so we mitigate it with worry, and worry just becomes its own thing that we do, like breathing, and we don't even realize why we're doing the worry and what it is signifying, that there's a deeper feeling of helplessness, and helplessness against an impending sense of a future that is going to be negative. So let's see here. When we worry, we make now not exist. Yeah, because we are living in the future. We're trying to mitigate whatever possible potential outcome could happen in the future, and we are not present with ourselves. And the only way to really have true power against what we think is impending doom, the only way to truly have power is to be with our inner child and to be totally present with ourselves and our thoughts and our feelings. Center, ground, self-soothe, self-love to the point where we feel okay again. And now you are in the present moment. That is why grounding meditations are so good for when you're feeling that worry. Actually, let me back it up. You can't, it's impossible for me to ground when I'm worrying. So what I need to validate the worries and the thoughts, right? The impending doom, what I'm doing to mitigate that, all the worries that I'm having, write them all down. Okay, now they've been validated. Now they're externalized outside of my head. And now I can focus on the body, soothing the body, literally somatically getting physically present in my body and releasing and relaxing. And that is essentially what you're doing by getting present with yourself and being in the now. It's like being totally in that space. Okay, trying to stop worry causes extra focus on it, so instead embrace it, be present with it, be compassionate. And those are such spiritual woo-woo sayings that unless you understand what that actually means, embrace it, be present with it, be compassionate with it, and that it means everything that I just said, just went over. Unless you know that, those things just seem like stupid phrases that everybody says that's like spiritual bypassing, because it's not actually acknowledging the reality of being a human who's actually worrying. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna end it there. I just read through the rest of it. This was my journal entry, but it doesn't super like. I was trying to know what my future would be at the time, so I was like writing out all my dreams and things that I wanted, but I wasn't actually addressing the worry that I had, and so I kind of like worked through that. But I feel like I pretty much addressed everything already in this video, and I'm sure it's already super long. So I think we're gonna end it there. So I hope that was helpful, because it was like super random. Yeah, but in the next video, we're gonna be talking about, I had a day of flow where everything just kind of like went perfectly and I manifested in all this awesome stuff. This is prior to me believing in manifesting awesome stuff, and just so much of it happened that I started to then create the belief that, oh, maybe you can actually manifest stuff. So there's that. And then the following day or a couple days afterwards, I hung out with people who I'd basically known for my whole life, and it felt terrible because I was growing and they were not, and it was becoming apparent, and I felt sad and I felt really upset because I was rejecting them. Like I felt like icky around them because they were acting the way that I used to act. And when you're growing, you reject old aspects of yourself out of necessity. It's part of the growth process. You say, I don't want to be that way anymore, I want to be this way. And it's, you know, going through that growth process that you realize, oh, well, maybe I can integrate, you know, there might be aspects that I had rejected that are okay to have. I just needed to learn a different way at first, and now I can incorporate and reintegrate all of it together. But when you're going to that like first step of like rejecting those aspects, anyone else in your life who is still doing those things, because you're rejecting them in yourself, you end up rejecting it in them as well. And so it can be really painful because you don't want that separation. It feels terrible to feel that way towards them, and just working through all that emotion. So those are, I think I'm going to combine them into the same video in the next video. If not, I'll separate them out. These videos go so long. I don't know how to make them any shorter. Do you watch them if they're this long? Let me know if like this is an acceptable length, or if I need to find some way to get it down to 30 minutes instead of like an hour. I'm sure to make it easier to digest. I just don't know how to like shorten these things. Anyways, like I said, my last video, I'm going to try to now take the audio out of these videos and upload them as podcasts, and I'm going to be working on creating a website to host that the episodes, and I think I'm going to post like literal pictures of my journal entries with my handwriting and stuff. I don't know, it'd be kind of cool. And then links to the videos. So like all that stuff that comes from one journal entry is on one web page, and then you can kind of like flip through at your own leisure. But yeah, just things that I'm working on. I am working on being more consistent is the big thing with this, because we're only in January of 2019. We still have like 6 years to go, and journals reflecting, like, I worked on this like daily, my process, my journey. So I need to speed things up a little bit, or it's going to take me years to make this series. So I'm going to try to be a lot more consistent. But yeah, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And make sure you're subscribed and ring that bell for notifications for when I do post. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.